Alright, this lesson is on effects and adjustment layers. I'm going to get started with effects. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the logo so that you can see it. And you can either add an effect directly to it, so it is always there from beginning to end, or you can animate that effect to happen. So for right now, what we're going to do, we're going to select the logo, okay? We're going to go into effect, and then there's so many different effects to choose from. I'm just going to choose one that you're more likely to use. So we're going to go to blur, and then I'm going to say, let's say Gaussian blur. Okay. Once you do that, once you add an effect, the effects control panel will pop up here, and you can go into, see where it says blurriness here? You can just change it here. And then this is how it is. And you can go for a really large amount, depending on how blurry you want it. But this just means when you just go in here and you change it here, it just means that that's how the logo is the whole time that it's visible. The cool thing about effects is that not only can you change what it always looks like, you can also animate it to blur. So it can go from not being blurred to gradually blurring. Okay, so you can animate that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this back to 0 just so you see what it looks like without being blurred, okay? And then show you where it is that you can change those settings. So if we go into the logo, now it has the effects here where you can change, you know, the blurriness in here also, just as you can here. There's are two places where you can change them. But you can also here change the blurriness and make it start by not being blurry and then go to being blurry. So to do that, you would go to blurriness here, hit stopwatch, and you could animate it. So you could go down the timeline and say, by this time I want it to become blurry, and then there set that, and it'll create a keyframe for you, and you can just blur it as much as you want. So it's gone from not blurry to blurry. So if we scrub the timeline here and we hit play or spacebar, it goes from not being blurry as time progresses to being blurry. And then you can go down the timeline again somewhere over here, say for instance, and then make it go back to not being blurry. So you bring that back to 0. So then it's going to go from not blurry to not blurry. Okay, so you can animate effects, and then as well as animating the actual object to say move from the left to the right or rotate or shrink. We could do that to the logo. I won't confuse things by showing you that. We're solely focusing on effects right now. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close this up just so it doesn't get all busy. Alright, now that's just one effect you can use, but there's multiple of them. So if we go in here, effect, we're going to try a different one that you might use. So we'll check out distort. And we're going to go to, say, twirl or something. Okay. So we've added twirl. So if we open it up, we'll notice that there's effects in here. And we have twirl. So I'm going to go ahead and open that one up. And basically we do the same thing. So we'll set it at the beginning. And we'll notice we have the angle. So we're going to hit the stopwatch there. And it's at 0. Then we're going to move down the timeline around the same time as the blur happened right there, and we're going to go ahead and just switch it so we can see it. And go here, and then we'll go ahead and take this back to 0. And that'll take it back to normal. So if we scrub the timeline, we'll notice it starts at 0, it twirls, and then it goes back to 0, so it twirls back to the 0. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and play it. All right. So those are effects and how you just apply them to individual objects. We're going to now fold these back up. And now what I'm going to show you how to do is adjustment layers, and adjustment layers are the ones that you use that will affect all the layers beneath them. So what we do first is we're going to go to layer, create a new adjustment layer, and then after you create the new adjustment layer, you can apply an effect just like you would. I'm going to try one like color correction, and we're going to do black and white. And we'll notice right now it applies to everything beneath it. If we change the order of this, the logo now changed color because it went back to its original color. If I go one layer down, it'll show the color of the paper. If I go one down all the way to the bottom, it doesn't really apply to anything. So I'm just going to place it here. So I want the logo to stay colored and then just the background to be black and white. Okay, so that's an adjustment layer. I'm going to go ahead and right click on this one, and I'm going to rename it just so I know what kind of adjustment layer it is. So I'm going to call it black and white, and then I'm going to call it adjustment. Okay, and I'm just going to turn it off so it doesn't confuse things. I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to do layer, new, adjustment layer, and that's this one here. I'm going to choose an effect, so I'm going to go to effect, and I'm going to try a different color correction, just because these are the ones you most commonly will use to correct the color of a video or something. And this time we're going to try hue saturation, and you get the options to pop up here. You can tweak around, play with the different colors here. You'll notice you can change the whole hue and everything. And you can tweak some of the other settings. So I'm going to do that right. Okay. So you'll notice if I turn it off, if I move it upward, it'll apply to everything beneath it, even turn the logo a different color. Or you can just play around with the positioning of it and see what it does. That is a combination. It only applies to the bottom one. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there. I'm going to right click it, rename it, and call it purple adjustment. And this way, if I say, oh no, that purple isn't really working, you can just turn it off, or you can delete it if you needed to. You can just select it, hit delete to get rid of it on your keyboard. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it back. Alright, if you wanted to tweak the settings, and you just select these and you see the different settings come up here also. Okay. Alright, this concludes your lesson on effects and adjustment layers. If you have any questions, please be sure to contact me.